Hi, thanks for being here. Today's video is going to be a house buying guide that is primarily going to benefit first-time home buyers. I already had this on my list of things to talk about, but I got a comment. TikTok compilation asks, "Hi Anna, can you do an easy guide on how to purchase your first house? I think it will get good ratings and I'm struggling myself. What is the best use for determining how much you should spend?" As a result of getting that particular question, I decided to move the house buying guide further up in the schedule, so we're doing this video today. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to prepare to go house hunting. That's going to include a conversation about financial preparedness, building your team, setting a budget, and what other resources you might have at your disposal. I'm going to talk about what happens when you launch your search, where you're looking, what kind of property you're looking at. I'm going to talk about the negotiation stage and any due diligence that you might have to make once you submit an offer. That's also going to cover inspections. I'm going to talk about applying for a mortgage, the closing process, and some things to watch out for at the time of closing, and then some other considerations that we might have. But first, here's a little bit about me. Hi, welcome to my channel. Thank you for watching. Here's a little bit about me. My household consists of myself, my husband, and my toddler. My mom also lives with us, but she's not included in our finances. We live in a high cost of living city in the Northeast. My husband and I both went to graduate school, but fortunately, we no longer have student loan debt. I work in banking and he works in aviation. I take care of the family's finances, and I love my role as the self-appointed CFO. I love to talk about all things money, whether it's investing, saving, or making money. I look forward to sharing a wealth building journey with you. I look forward to getting to know you, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Buying a house is going to be the most expensive purchase of your entire life, unless of course you eventually become a billionaire and you get yourself a super yacht. But generally speaking, for the average person, this is the most money you're ever going to spend in one transaction. That means that there are some very specific steps that you have to take before your search so you can make sure you're ready. The first step is to be financially prepared. And one of the ways that you are going to be financially prepared to buy a house is to have satisfactory credit. There's more to financial preparedness than just good credit. However, the vast majority of people, particularly given the way that house prices have been rising lately, and especially if you live in a high cost of living area, you are most likely going to need a mortgage. A mortgage is not going to be easy to come by, or you're not going to get the greatest terms unless your credit is in good shape. So you're going to want to know your credit history and your credit score. You're going to want to maintain your credit. Looking at your credit is going to be really just one snapshot in time. A house buying process is a pretty lengthy one. So if you check your credit and you see that it's good, congratulations, but you're going to have to maintain it. If your credit is not so good, you might want to start working on it almost immediately, because you can get a mortgage at almost any score, but that does not mean that you're going to get the most favorable terms. Can you get a mortgage with a 590 credit score or a 600 credit score? Sure. But are you going to get a sub 3% interest rate with no fees and no point? Probably not. For example, in our case right now, our mortgage is 2.63 over the course of 30 years. And these are terms that I doubt we would have been able to secure if both of our credit scores were not above 750. The next step to being financially prepared is to save for a down payment. Of course, the ideal down payment is 20% because that is the amount at which you avoid PMI. PMI is private mortgage insurance, and that is money that once you spend it, you never see it again. However, I fully understand that is not realistic for everybody to achieve. It is fine to explore other options. I am not one of those people who think that PMI is the devil. Do I think it is ideal? No, because I don't think you should ever be giving away free money. However, if that 20% amount is your only barrier to entry, it might work in your favor to explore other options. With an FHA loan, you can put down as little as 3.5%. With a VA loan, you might be able to do 0%. And with a USDA loan that allows people to purchase houses in more rural areas, you might also be able to get a 0% loan. The only one of these three that require a commitment is the VA loan, because it requires that you or your spouse qualify through military service. You can also get a conventional loan with 10 or 15% down. Once you are financially prepared, forward, you're going to want to build your team, and your team is going to consist of 4 key people. I have arranged this list specifically in the order in which that they will appear in your transaction. There might be some overlap, but in my opinion, this is the best order in which for you to build your team. The first person in your team is going to be your lender. Your lender is going to help you get your pre-approval. The reason why I think that's important is because that lender will help you to determine what your price range is and what a comfortable budget should be. Of course, the lender is going to tell you the maximum house that you're approved for. If for any reason you are under the impression that you are able to find a house for way less than what the lender has approved you for, you are certainly free to do that. The pre-approval letter is most certainly not a commitment. It is simply the maximum house that you can buy. Your next member of your team is your real estate agent, your buyer's agent. That is your partner through the entire process. The reason why you connect with your lender before your agent is because your agent will need to know what you can afford. They are going to be much more efficient at helping you if they know what budget they're working with. Next is the inspector. The inspector is the independent professional who looks for potential problems with the property that you're considering purchasing. And then finally, your attorney will do your contract review. They will do your title search. They'll do recording of the deed. They will head the entire closing process. Once you have your team together and you have your pre-approval letter in hand, you're going to set a budget. You're not required to buy what the lender approves you for. That's just your maximum. So you take the time and see if you're happy with that pre-approval letter or if you want to buy for a little bit less. And once you've set a budget, you know what your down payment's going to be. You know what you're pre-approved for. Seek out resources. There might be options in your city or in your state that helps first-time home buyers. They're typically referred to as down payment assistance programs or first-time home buyer assistance programs. Some of them are income-based, but not all of them are income-based. Some of them are local government initiatives that are trying to keep people in their particular city. Just because you have money doesn't mean that you won't qualify. It doesn't hurt to look. Although there might be some restrictions, like how long you have to stay in the house, or you may not be able to move out and put it up for rent. You might have to sell it if you move out. These often comes with some strings attached, but I'm never one to turn down free money. At the very least, I think it's worth doing some research and finding out what options are available to you. Once you've done your research, you want to know what you're looking for in a property. The really big cliche in real estate is location, location, location. You might feel like it's super corny, but the reality is, out of all of the things that you face when you purchase a property, the location is the only thing that you cannot change. Therefore, it is very important for you to make sure that you do your research in selecting your neighborhood. So look around. What kind of amenities are important to you? Do schools matter? What businesses are nearby? What is the traffic like? What are your neighbors like? Do they let infrastructure crumble? Do they fix roads and bridges? Is traffic really terrible? Honestly, I wouldn't even think that it's out of the realm of possibility for you to try and join some social media groups. A lot of neighborhoods and towns these days will have Facebook groups, and people will have conversations and they'll speak very candidly about what's going on in the community. Whether you want to know that your neighbor's politics align with yours, what the local leaders are doing, whatever the case might be, you want to do your research both from a curb appeal perspective, a location perspective, and a total community perspective. Once you research your location, determine what you want in a property. Make a list of your must-haves and your nice-to-haves. But remember, be flexible. Even if something falls under a must-have, you might be able to change it, so it might not be worth missing out on a great property just because you don't love it. For example, in our case, we bought a house with wall-to-wall carpet. Personally, I hate carpets, but instead of passing on a house altogether, we bought it, and over the years, we have gradually removed all of the carpeting and added hardwood flooring. Paint color can be changed, a basement can be finished. Choose your battles wisely. Now you know your location and the neighborhood you want to be in. You have your list of must-have property features. You have been walking the neighborhoods, you have been seeing properties trickle into your email, and you've been going to open houses. You have found a gem and it's time to make a decision. Be prepared, because right now it is a seller's market. You do not have time to waste. However, you also don't want to be rushed into making a bad decision. That's why it's important to be prepared. prepared. If you've done your homework, the legwork and the hard part has already been done, and you are ready to make an informed decision. If you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to hit the like button so the algorithm knows that it's good, and of course, subscribe for more content. If you think any of the information that I provide here might be helpful to somebody else, be sure to share it with them. If you're thinking about making an offer, you have reached the negotiation and the due diligence part of home buying. This is where you're going to be working very closely with your agent. The first step is for you to consider local market information in order to make the most competitive offer. I get it. You don't want to overpay for a house, but you also don't want to put yourself in a position where you make an offer that is so insultingly low that you close the door to all future negotiations. Your agent is going to help you with all of that information by looking at houses that are currently on the market that are comparable to yours, and so most importantly, looking at houses that have closed and sold in the last few weeks and looking at their prices to make sure you are in the best position to make an offer that is both competitive but that is not too far above the market value of the property you're trying to acquire. You're also going to want to know your contingencies. And your contingencies are things that you tell the seller, essentially, if I am not able to meet those specific benchmarks, this deal may not go through, without losing any of your deposit money. The last thing people want is to be in a position where buyers who are not serious waste their time. So there are specific home buying contingencies that are industry standard that you're not wasting their time if you're not able to meet them. It's just part of the deal. And then you have the option of requesting inspections if the seller either doesn't agree to them, or if the seller agrees to them but those inspections fail, you may be able to get out of the transaction that way as well. And then finally, your agent is going to help you complete an offer packet. An offer packet is going to be the contract where you offer to purchase the property, any disclosures that might apply. For example, if the house was built before 1978, you are supposed to do a lead paint disclosure, and typically a lead paint disclosure has a very detailed section that talks about the dangers of lead paint and the likelihood that a house that was built before 1978 has lead paint in it, and then it will require the seller to disclose whether or not they have any knowledge of lead paint or if they have no knowledge of it. And then you are also going to include either your pre-approval and or your proof of funds. So your proof of funds might be if you're buying the house cash, or if you are claiming that you're going to put a substantial down payment, the seller might want proof that you actually do have that money in hand. And a key thing that you are going to include with your offer packet is something called an earnest money deposit, a very small amount of money that you put forward in good faith to show them that you really are intending to buy this house and you're serious. It's very small. Recently, it's been $1,000, but I remember when I purchased my first house, my earnest money deposit was $500. And you're going to want to do some due diligence. Part of your due diligence is going to depend on what kind of property that you're getting. For example, if you are buying into a homeowners association, you're going to want to know what the financial condition of the association is. You're going to want to request the condo documents and potentially even the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes to me are a good indicator of how well run and how organized the association is. Your lender is not going to give your loan without knowing the financial condition of the association in the first place, so you should not have too many worries about that. But you're going to want to know what the condo bylaws are. So you request your other condo documents and read them for yourself so you can know the rules, so you can know if they are rules that you can live with. For example, I knew someone who was really interested in getting a property. It was a very nice 2-bedroom condo. It was going to be that person's first property, but the drawback is that they had a dog and a cat, and it turned out that the condo association did not allow dogs of any size. They had gone ahead and made an offer, but it wasn't until they were reading the condo bylaws they realized that they could not have a dog. Another type of due diligence that I would recommend is things like building permit, easements, and any assessments the town might have. If you saw that major work was done on the property, you may want to reassure yourself that the work was done correctly. And the best way for you to do that is to look at the town and see if permits were pulled. You also want to find out if there are any easements on the property and what the property lines are. In my case, I remember when I was buying my first property, I had made an offer on a house. It looked like it had a weirdly shaped, unusually large driveway. And upon further inquiry, I found out that it wasn't that I had a really large driveway. It was that that particular property shared a driveway with the next door neighbors. And if you know anything about where I live, is that snow is a big deal where we are. The last thing you want is a driveway with an incomplete or unclear property line, and you don't know who is responsible for cleaning it. I asked them additional questions, and they said that there was an easement because the other person's driveway was entirely too narrow for them to fit their car. So in order for them to access their garage, they had to have an easement on the property in which I was interested. And once I asked about how they arrange for snow cleanup, the seller's agent told me they have lived together in harmony for 30 years. It was about neighbors helping neighbors, and nobody kept track of who was responsible for cleaning. Well, good for them, but there was no guarantee that I was going to live in harmony with the people next door. At the time, I was a single young woman in my 20s. The last thing that I wanted to do was do back-breaking labor to shovel snow and dig out my neighbor's car. I didn't think that was acceptable. I said no thank you, and I moved on. And if the seller accepts the offer, you are ready for the inspection process. The inspector is there to evaluate the home. The inspection process itself is of a very broad scope, but there are some limitations. A good inspector is going to look at a lot of things, but it's also a non-invasive process. They cannot drill holes in the walls. They can only open doors, take down things that they can put back together with no damage, because the house is not yours. The house is still somebody else's house. And if for any reason you decide not to purchase it, you don't want to be responsible. Typically, an inspector is going to have a list of things that they need to look at, and that's going to include your roof, your mechanical systems, heating and cooling, your hot water tank, etc. They're going to look at your electrical panels. They're going to make sure that there's no mold, there's no water damage. They're also going to check all of the appliances to make sure that they're in working order. However, don't forget, the inspector is more of a generalist. If they see something wrong, they are going to refer you to look elsewhere. For example, if they spot an issue with the electrical panel, they're going to make note of what that issue is, but they're not going to tell you how to fix it. They are most likely going to tell you that you need to speak to an electrician. Once the inspector completes his report, you're going to use that to have another conversation with the seller. You typically have three options when you receive an inspection report. You can either request that repairs be made, you can request cash, or you can accept the outcome of the inspection and move on with the transaction, or you can back out. A lot of people these days are foregoing inspections. My advice is, if you are a first-time home buyer, do not forego the inspection, even if you're not gonna ask for anything to be fixed. Your last chance to negotiate anything really is at the inspection. Once you've resolved that, you are ready to move on to the mortgage application stage. But before you do that, you're going to want to execute your contract, and you're going to apply for your mortgage. Your lenders are going to request a ton of documents: your tax return, your pay stub, your bank statements. They're going to want an explanation for everything that they see that they do not understand. And then some additional funds may be required. In the event that you're putting 5, 10, 20% down, the small amount of money that you provided the seller with in good faith is obviously not going to be enough. If you are doing a sizable down payment, you might have to come up with some additional funds. And then once you get to that stage, it's a lot of hurry up and wait, because there are lots of other people working in the background until you get a notification that you need to send some kind of document in. But one thing for you to remember is that you need to protect yourself, because there has been a spike in people losing all of their life savings in closing scam emails. It is very normal that a couple of days before your closing, you get contacted by your attorney or your attorney's paralegal to let you know what your final cash contribution is going to be. this is money that you're gonna have to bring cash to the table. Typically, somebody from the attorney's office is gonna give you a call, or they're gonna send you an email that says, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, here's how much you should send to our office. Well, apparently, there have been people who have been hacking into attorneys' emails, seeing what their closing schedules are, and then emailing potential buyers with correct instructions, but with the bank account information of the scammer. If you get an email or you get a phone call, my recommendation to you is to pick up the phone and call your attorney, not using the phone number that you see in the signature line of the email that you receive, but using the phone number that you've been using to communicate with your attorney's office. Call them back and confirm that they sent you that email, and have them verbally confirm their wiring instructions. Congratulations, you've closed, but there are a few things to remember. You need to maintain your credit until the property transfers. Don't forget that once you are told that you're approved for the loan, or that you have the clear to close, that is conditional upon you maintain a satisfactory financial condition until the day that you close. There have been lenders who have checked your credit the morning of a closing. New car purchase, you don't need it. New credit card for all that furniture you're gonna buy for your new house, you don't need it. Keep your nose clean until you have your keys in your hands. Read all of your closing documents. Errors are more common than you think. Student loan balances can affect your mortgage approval. Note that I said student loan balances, not your student loan payments. You might be on an income-based repayment plan, and you might have a very manageable payment every month. However, there are some types of loans that will recalculate a completely different payment amount for your student loan, regardless of what you're actually paying on right now, and they will count it against you. If you're going to save for your down payment, make sure you have savings that are above your down payment amount. Not only because you're going to incur some moving costs, but also because there are always surprises. So it's important for you to have savings above your down payment. In general, I'm always going to promote having an emergency fund. I really don't recommend you clear your bank account to zero just for the sake of putting a down payment. Another thing for you to remember is that market predictions do not matter. Simply put, the only time you should care about what the housing market is doing is when you're selling your house. You shouldn't care when you're buying your house, and you should not care when you're living in your house. If you are buying your house, your decision to buy should be based on whether or not you can afford to make payments. I have seen many people get priced out of buying a house because they were waiting for a dip. They were waiting for a dip that never came. The day that you're buying, the only thing that matters is, can I afford this house? A house is definitely an asset, but the house that you live in is not an investment. You need a place to live. You should not be speculating on what prices are doing. If you're going to live there long enough to recoup your closing costs, nothing else matters. And the last thing that I want you to remember is mortgage calculators suck. I think that mortgage calculators are strongly lacking. For example, the tax information tends to not be accurate. It has no information about insurance costs. The matter of interest rates is a complete guess because they don't know your credit, and there are no guarantees that the rate that is being quoted today is going to be the same rate that you're going to have by the time you close. And then finally, there is no knowledge of whether or not you're going to have PMI, and even if you do have PMI, well, how much is it going to be? I do not like mortgage calculators at all. What I do like, however, are affordability calculators. Affordability calculators focus a lot less on the potential property that you're buying and a lot more on what your own income is, what your debts are, and what they think you can afford. And in closing, I have some additional information, some resources I think might be able to help you. I will include those links in the description box of the video, but also I was thinking about making some follow-up videos that are much shorter in length, but that go over various concepts and terms that I discuss in this video. Let me know where you are in your home buying journey. Are you an experienced homeowner? Are you an aspiring homeowner? Or are you currently in the process of purchasing a home, or have you recently purchased a home? Also, if you are either an experienced home buyer or you are a real estate professional, let me know what you think of the topics that I discussed here. Am I way off base? Is there anything that I am missing that you think is important and that should have been mentioned? I would like to continue sharing my thoughts on all things money with you. So I would appreciate it if you could help out the channel by liking this video and sharing it with anyone you think might benefit from it. If you want to see more content, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can know when new videos come out. I'll see you in the next one.